Greetings, it is I, Countess Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time to continue our discussion on EARTHDAWN. We last left off, we were talking about thread magic. We're going to continue to dive into thread magic and try to finish up some more about it. Today, I'm going to move on from talking about using thread magic to connect yourself to a magic item and talking about connecting it to another type of true pattern, ones of people and places. So now, yes, thread magic using it connecting to a magic item is the most common, but there are times that you want to connect to a person or a place. For these, of course, you need pattern items. I talked about this before. Pattern items don't have a true pattern of their own. They have a portion of the true pattern of whatever you're trying to connect to. Now, I might have a pattern item that's one of my own, but connecting to it, it's not going to get anything. It's reflecting my own true pattern. So that's what you have to think about it. It's reflecting the true pattern of what you're trying to connect to. So if you have your own, it's reflecting your own. What does it matter if you weave threads into your own pattern? It's not going to make a difference. Now, like with a magic item, you need key knowledges to make these threads connect them. But there are some differences in the mannerism that goes about it. For one thing, you're going to first find a pattern item to begin with, which oftentimes involves adventuring and many types of talent tests. The thing about pattern items is they're oftentimes recognized as being as strong and powerful as they are. So many people or many things might guard them. Defenses for a pattern item make it much more difficult to gain one of those than even if you're just trying to journey for information for a magic item. So it's a much more difficult task almost to find a pattern item in the first place. Now there is an advantage. Most true patterns will usually have 0 to 5 pattern items. That means you could have 5 at most, and of course you could have none and be unlucky and not be able to connect to that pattern, but you might have one that has 5. Usually the more powerful the true pattern, the more pattern items it has, but it also can have more potent pattern items. Now the first pattern item an item is going to have is called a minor pattern item. This is the first type of it. Then you can find major pattern items, which, in order for an item to have a major, it has to already have a minor. The next one goes up to core pattern item, the most powerful types of them all, which again, you would still need to have at least a major for it to happen. Now, a true pattern does not require pattern items of the major or core variety. It could just have a minor one. On the other hand, it could upgrade that one. So it could seem like it only has a core one, but in fact started out as a minor one that upgraded over the time period that it existed. So you could find that it only has what seems to be a core pattern item. It just, when it started out, it had to have been a minor. So there was an evolution to the pattern item itself. These levels of pattern item reflect how potent the key knowledge held within is. A minor pattern item is going to have much more of a minor key knowledge. Major, much more major, while core is a key knowledge that's intrinsic to the very nature of whatever true pattern it reflects. The thing about these pattern items is that they're created over time to represent various events and things going on. Changes in the intrinsic nature of the true pattern in relation to magic. Major events that are hitting into it. These sort of things create these pattern items that you're going to be looking into. And when you're diving into the history of it, when you're learning these key knowledges, it's more than just getting a hold of them sometimes. You might still need something that would relate to this key knowledge in order to use as a focus. So it's maybe like this key item relates to this true pattern, but there was an event that it took place during that created it that involves something else. You might need that something else there to help you remember it and help it keep it in a position where you can use it properly, as a focus, if you will. It may be required. Now, there is another major difference. When we're talking about the spell defense, it's not like with a magic item where it's got a spell defense. A pattern item is going to have a variable spell defense dependent on a chart, and it's really going to be your game master's prerogative what spell defense they give for it. They'll look to the chart, see the kind of normal variables for that whatever level of pattern item combined with various things that you're dealing with, and give you a level that you have to reach, a defense effectively that you have to breach. So of course then you're going to use that item history test to find out what the relationship between the pattern item and the true pattern is, to kind of determine the two of those together. But the thing is, you can also use an item history detect to determine if the item, which relates to the true pattern, is a pattern item to begin with. So it might be that you pick up something that you're like, oh, this great hero, or this place, this relates to that. It still might not be a pattern item just because it relates to it, just because it's part of that. It would have had to have been formed into it, and that's a way to check at it. Now, there is some limitations when it comes to researching a pattern item. Failure means it becomes difficult. It takes time to research a pattern item, and doing so, you run the risk that prolonged exposure to it makes this pattern item no longer intrinsically connected to the original true pattern that it was, but instead makes it important to your own. So therefore, if I'm spending a lot of time with this pattern item, I run the risk of it no longer being a pattern item for whatever it was originally connected to, and now being linked to me. Therefore, research, especially when you start failing checks on your research test, it means it takes a lot more time. You have to spend more time so you're not overlaying your own true pattern into this. It effectively means about every day you're spending on research, you can only be exposed to you can only concentrate on this pattern item for about an hour. That's the safe level. Of course, again, the more times you fail, the longer in between you need to spend with it. Once you've succeeded, you don't have to worry about this anymore. You can, you're not like holding it tight, effectively concentrating on it, getting it in a position where you might connect with it. So you can sort of put it away, put it aside, worry about weaving your threads in, not worry about, making it something of your own rather than the true patterns it was connected to originally. Of course, succeeding at this, you get your research knowledge, you've gotten your true knowledge, you've gotten your basic way to connect into that true pattern. Now, of course, just like with magic items, you have to spend legend points in order to weave a thread into this pattern item. The difference is, unlike with a magic item, you're ranking up the ranks and threads in this pattern item as if it was a novice talent. So you're using the exact same rules that you'd use for spending legend points to up the ranks in a novice talent to rank up your rank of thread that you're connecting with this pattern item. Now, of course, you are still limited in the level of rank you can commit with this pattern item. First off, your rank in weaving, with thread weaving, that's going to limit it, just like before. If I have a thread weaving of 2, I can only get a rank 2 connection. If I have thread weaving of 15, I can get a rank 15 connection. But also then the type of pattern item limits it too. You can only get up to a rank 5 thread in with a minor pattern item. 9 for major, and of course 15 for core, sort of maxing it out there. So that's it for today. I introduced you to some more information about thread magic. Moving beyond talking about magic items and weaving threads into them, and talking about weaving threads into other true patterns, those of persons and places, using pattern items and what these pattern items represent, what they mean, and using them as connecting points between you and this other pattern that you want to connect your two true patterns together through, using it as a waypoint between the two of them. In the next episode, I'm actually going to talk about weaving threads into group true patterns and what that means, connecting them together in sort of a string of a group, almost, as you could say. So if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, anything you think I left out, please leave it in the comments below. Please like, share, and of course, subscribe. It shows support the channel, the empire, and the work I do. If you want to show some extra support, you could always check out my Patreon, linked in the description below. But regardless, until the next time, I bid you farewell.